Hi, this is Mrs. Stevenson, and today I will be showing you a review of the Algebra 1 Content and Credit Recovery Unit Test. When you take your test, it'll consist of 9 questions. Some of these questions you may actually have on your test, so bonus! But either way, today is Unit 1, and you'll see the collection of all 11 units in a folder, if not already, then shortly. I'll jump right in. DeMarco wrote 2 correct variable expressions to represent the phrase, the product of a number and 7. Okay. So when we write this, we have a few ways that we can write a product. And what I want you to get out of the habit of doing is probably writing with the X sign, like 7 times a number like that. We're not going to use that X symbol anymore. We're going to write this, and there's a few ways we can write a product. You can write it as 7n. You can write it as 7, and I'm dot n. If you want to be literal and write it in the order that it comes, and usually that's what I'm going to suggest to you, is to write it in the order of which it states it, right? The only problem with writing it as n and 7, so that time I did it with parentheses, is typically we like the number in front of the variable that is called the coefficient. That's called the coefficient. So we like that number to sit right there in front of that variable. Also remember that multiplication and addition have the associative and commutative properties, so that when we change the order of them, it doesn't negatively impact our answer. That's different when we get to addition and subtraction. Let's look at this one. The next one says, which variable expression represents the phrase, the difference of a number and 11? When you write this answer, a number and 11, you have to write it in that order. Place the number there. For instance, 5. If I had 5 minus 11, my answer would be -6. If I do 11 minus 5, my answer is +6. So it makes a difference which one we write. So the only correct way is to write it as n and 11. Like I said, use the order that it comes in. Let's look at the next one. Okay, the next one says, which expression represents the phrase twice the sum of a number, twice the sum of a number, and 3? So remember what I just said. Be pretty literal when writing these equations. So I'm going to write twice, which is 2, of course. The sum of a number is to add the number and 3. Now, because we're multiplying by the sum of the number and 3, we need to put parentheses around the sum n plus 3, indicating order of operation. You wouldn't want to leave that parentheses off of it, because then you would only be multiplying by n when this statement says the sum of a number and 3. Go ahead to the next one. Which equation represents the sentence, 2 more than 1/3 of a number is 8? So let's just take this piece by piece. 2 more than. Typically, your more than or less than statements are going to go in reverse. For instance, I could have 1/3 plus 2. Oh, 1/3 and the number, sorry, plus 2. But like I said before, addition is commutative, so the order doesn't matter. Okay? Let me just start that over again real quick, and I'll write it. 2 more than 1/3 of a number. So remember, of is to multiply. Of indicates multiplication. That's 1, your 1/3. And then is your equal sign, is 8. Another way you could write this answer, as I was stating before, you could do the 1/3, the number plus 2 is 8. Okay? Notice there's no parentheses by that one. Okay? Which equation represents this number sentence? So, of course, you'll have options. This is multiple choice, but I'm going to give you just the answer. So 9 more than. Once again, 9 more than, but that more than actually should come after, okay? Whenever you're dealing with more than or less than, it should come after. So it should be 9 plus. But because addition has that commutative relationship, sometimes they put it in the front, okay? A quotient of a number and 3. A quotient means to divide. What are you dividing? Your number, okay, and 3. So we're dividing a number and 3, okay? And once again, we have is 21, okay? You could put parentheses around your division problem, but remember, order of operations states that that's going to be, you're going to divide first anyway, okay? Order of operations says you would divide first anyway. Let's look at some other variations that we could write this question. I could also, I'm going to erase this 9 up here. I could also write this part right here as n over 3 plus 9 equals 21. Okay, means the same thing. So you might have either option for your multiple choice question. Let's go ahead and look at number 6. 3 less than the product of 7 and a number is 4 more than the number. Let's just take this one at a time. So 3 less than, that's that less than I was just telling you about, less than and more than. It's going to be at the end. So I know this is going to be minus 3. Okay. 3 less, the product, so that's to multiply, do parentheses or a dot, try to get out the habit of doing the X, 7, and a number, so 7, and the number. Since it's multiplication, you can put a dot there, you can do parentheses, or you can do nothing at all because that's the coefficient. Is 4. Remember, that's going to go in the back because it says more than. So 4 more than a number. Okay? Very literal. If you try to like reinterpret or read it, you know, change it up a little bit, that's when you start messing up. Just be very literal. All right, next question. OHM's law is given by the equation V equals IR, where V is the voltage in watts, I is the current in amps, and R is the resistance in OHMS. Are the OHMs, OHMS. A lamp needs a half an amp. Which equation can be used? So we're going to use this equation that was given to us, V equals IR. I'm going to highlight some key points. Okay. After I get rid of that, so my lamp needs 0.5 amps, and then I represents the amps. So I can substitute out B equals, instead of having the I can do 1/2 or 0.5 R. Just to be consistent with the information, I'm going to change that 1/2 to a 0.5. Just sometimes, you know, the smallest things will confuse us. So I'll just try to keep it just the same. So it should look like that. Hey, last question, second to last question. The fuel wood is measured in quarts. The number of cords in a pile of L feet long, W feet wide, H feet tall can be estimated using the equation by the cords. LWH over 128. Orrin measures a pile of wood to be 18 feet long and 24 feet wide. We're going to compare the equations. This is another one where you're just going to substitute out. Doesn't have to be anything too fancy. Okay. So real quick, I'm going to show you my numbers. I have L and W, 18 feet, 24. That's where it sits in my equation right here. So I'm going to substitute that out. 18 times 24. I do not have a solution for H, all over 128. Go ahead and simplify the numerator or by multiplying those like terms, so 432H over 128. Off to the next one. Number 9. Julie drove a motorcycle in a race. She averaged 35 miles per hour and began the race 0.25 hours ahead of other drivers. The variable D, Julie's distance driven in miles. The variable T represents the number of hours since the other race the drivers began. So let's go ahead and look at this one by first defining all the variables. And I'm a highlighter. I always have been. Just like mixed answers pop in front of me. So I'm going to highlight that she averaged 35 miles an hour and that she began that race 0.25 hours ahead of the other drivers. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'll go through and I'll put my D represents the distance. And I color code everything too. And T represents the number of hours. Right? So remember, distance equals rate times time, right? Distance equals rate times time. Distance, oopsie. Oops. Distance equals rate times time. So let's substitute in some things that we have in this information. I don't have the distance. That's what I'm going to create a formula for. Equals. My rate is 35 miles per hour. And now let's look at that time. That time, we don't know the total number of hours, but we do know that she was 0.25 hours ahead. So T plus 0.25 would be a perfect answer. Okay? And that's it. All right, and that sums up Unit 1. If you have any questions, you can message me. It's awesome if you take a screenshot and say, hey, you got this one wrong. I think they're all pretty much right, though. But definitely let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you next time. Thank you. Have a great day.